Today, we'll reveal some dark theories about cartoons that will leave you speechless. Here, you'll discover fan theories that might completely change the way you see your favorite animated shows. Let's watch it. It's fascinating. Bluey. In the colorful world of this Australian series, a simple, recurring joke has sparked a fascinating theory that has captured fans' imaginations. If you look closely, you'll notice that the Healer family has a washing machine and clothes hanging to dry, even though none of the characters wear clothes. This detail led some to speculate that the Healer family might live in a nudist community. Although all the bipedal dogs in their neighborhood appear naked, we occasionally see Bandit, Bluey's dad, doing laundry, and Lucky's dad hanging clothes to dry. What's the point of washing and drying clothes if they don't wear them? The logic behind this theory suggests that, in their world, clothes exist, but the Healers and their neighbors simply don't wear them, indicating they might belong to a nudist community that only dresses up on special occasions. On the other hand, a more elaborate theory suggests something even more intriguing. Australian fans noted that the Healer family lives in a house that looks expensive, leading to speculation that they reside in the exclusive Paddington area of Brisbane. This neighborhood is known for its million-dollar homes, raising the question, how can Bandit, an archaeologist, and Chili, an airport security worker, afford to live there with their two daughters? In theory, their salaries wouldn't be enough to support such a lifestyle. Here's where fans' imaginations run wild. According to this hypothesis, Bandit and Chili could be involved in an international crime operation. Supposedly, the father of the family might be trafficking rare archaeological finds, while his wife, thanks to her job at the airport, could help these items pass through Australia's strict borders. Although it may seem far-fetched, fans argue that this theory could explain how the Healers afford their luxurious home. Plus, Bandit appears to be a loving, somewhat clumsy dad, but this dark side of his professional life adds a layer of mystery that fans can't help but explore. Paw Patrol. Adventure Bay is where Ryder, Marshall, Rubble, and the rest of the pups live and work together to save the day. Still, there's one important detail that stands out. Why are there no parents? According to a fan's theory, Adventure Bay is a war zone, and all the adults have been recruited by the military, leaving behind only a few adults, like Mayor Goodway, Captain Turbot, and Mr. Porter. This same theory claims that Ryder's parents were tech industry moguls who, before the start of the series, left to build advanced technology to help win the war. By leaving Ryder with money and resources to create advanced tools, he becomes the leader of the Paw Patrol, whose members are equipped with the technology he's built himself. Another version of the story suggests that Ryder's parents created robotic rescue dogs to keep Adventure Bay safe, while the real police officers, firefighters, and rescue workers are off supporting the war effort. This would explain why the pups always need Ryder to instruct them on what to do, and also why they're the only animals who can talk. Captain Tsubasa. The anime, based on Yoichi Takahashi's manga, follows the story of Tsubasa Uzora, whose name was changed to Oliver Atom in the original series aired in Latin America in the 80s and 90s. At only 11 years old, he has a massive dream: to become the best soccer player in the world and lead Japan's national team to victory in the World Cup. Throughout his journey, he showcases extraordinary skills on the field that keep fans on the edge of their seats, with goals that defy the laws of physics and legendary moves. But behind all this glory, there's a disturbing urban legend that has shaken many anime fans. According to this theory, he was never a soccer prodigy. Instead, all his achievements happened in his mind while he was in a coma following a tragic accident. After being hit by a truck as a child, Oliver dreams of his ideal life as a soccer player, unaware of the truth in his unconscious state. When he finally wakes up, he's confronted with a harsh reality. He lost both legs and will never be able to play soccer. This dark rumor has led to stories about a lost episode, showing the heartbreaking moment Oliver faces his new life without legs. Although series creator Yoichi Takahashi never confirmed this episode's existence, the mere possibility of this tragic twist has cast a dark shadow over the fan community, who fear that this theory could tarnish the legacy of one of anime's greatest soccer heroes. SpongeBob SquarePants. For over 20 years, this has been one of the most popular animated series for both kids and adults. But did you know there are two conspiracy theories that might change the way you look at it? According to the first fan theory, Bikini Bottom isn't a fictional place, but part of Bikini Atoll, a real site in the Marshall Islands where the U.S. military detonated 23 nuclear bombs between 1946 and 1958. The theory goes on to suggest that these explosions released radiation, causing remarkable mutations in the marine life. That's how an ordinary sea sponge became SpongeBob, the cheerful cook at the Krusty Krab, and other animals like Patrick the starfish and Squidward the octopus also mutated due to radiation from so many nuclear bombs. Another equally unsettling theory proposes that each SpongeBob character represents one of the 7 deadly sins, with Mr. Krabs embodying greed, Plankton envy, Gary sloth, Sandy pride, Squidward wrath, Patrick gluttony, and, surprisingly, SpongeBob symbolizing lust. The Simpsons. Throughout its 35 seasons, fans of this series have debated the true location of Springfield, the fictional city where the most famous yellow family on TV lives. While many believe it's in Oregon, the home state of creator Matt Groening, others think Homer and his family live in Maine. Some even argue Missouri is the correct answer, as the series has made numerous references to that state, such as when Bart and Grandpa visit the city of Branson, or when Bart, Milhouse, Martin, and Nelson stop there on their way to the Knoxville World's Fair. The next and darkest theory centers around the 2-part episode titled, Who Shot Mr. Burns? According to this theory, it was Marge who shot the powerful magnate, not Maggie as revealed at the end. This theory holds that Marge was fed up with how Burns ruined her family's life, so she decided to shoot him and left the gun with Maggie to divert attention away from herself. As for the possible end of the series, there's a rumor that it will conclude with a shocking revelation. Bart created the Simpsons universe to tell the story of his life, which would explain why the characters never age and why so much of the humor revolves around his youthful perspective. This makes sense when you learn that in the initial drafts, Matt Groening considered making Bart the central character. Additionally, the creator named the Yellow family after his own parents, Homer and Marge, and his sisters, Lisa and Maggie. So it wouldn't be surprising if this is the ending we see when The Simpsons airs its final episode. Rugrats. Of all the cartoon theories, this series has one of the darkest stories you can imagine. The hypothesis, which emerged when the Nickelodeon show was still on the air, suggests that everything we see takes place in the schizophrenic mind of Angelica, who is deeply affected by her parents' abandonment. In this dark version, she is the only child who's actually alive, as Chucky died along with his mother, which explains why his father, Chaz, is always nervous and filled with anxiety. Tommy also didn't have a chance to live, as he died during childbirth, leading his father, Stu, to spend countless hours in the basement building toys as a way to cope with the loss of the son he never got to know. The story becomes even more unsettling with Phil and Lil, the twins. In reality, they were never born due to a miscarriage their mother suffered. And since Angelica didn't know whether they were boys or girls, her imagination created 2 versions, identical boy and girl twins. The only baby who's truly alive is Dill. But even this is tragic, as his resistance to following Angelica's orders creates a visible tension between them, and reinforces the idea that she's lost control of her reality. Pokemon. When you think about it, the world of Pokemon is very strange. To see it, just ask yourself, why are children allowed to travel around the world training monsters for battle? Since its debut in 1997, this anime has captivated millions of kids with its epic adventures between trainers and their Pokemon companions. However, some fans believe it's not such a happy world, as they think it actually takes place on Earth after a devastating nuclear war. A few years before Ash Ketchum and Pikachu arrived, the entire planet was engulfed in a military conflict where Pokemon weren't just battle companions, but served as living weapons. This dark backstory is hinted at in the Pokemon Red and Blue games, where Lieutenant Surge, the Kanto region gym leader, mentions that his life was saved by electric-type Pokemon during the war. If what he said is true, the series takes place in a world where most adult men perished in combat, leaving only children, elderly people, and women like Ash's mom, Nurse Joy, and Professor Oak to rebuild society. Meanwhile, the young trainers don't just capture Pokemon for fun, but have a crucial mission: to gather information about the species that survived the conflict. So their journey is a quest to document life in a devastated world, while humanity had the twisted idea of holding tournaments where Pokémon fight in brutal battles, just as they did in the war years earlier. The Fairly Odd Parents. Timmy Turner was just an ordinary kid until a deep sadness started taking over his life. In the midst of his pain, two magical beings named Wanda and Cosmo appeared, capable of granting wishes and offering him a glimmer of hope. But behind this facade of magic and adventure, there lies a much darker reality. The unsettling truth is that Wanda and Cosmo may not be magical godparents at all, but rather metaphorical representations of powerful antidepressants designed to keep Timmy afloat in a sea of despair. The story takes an even darker turn with another theory. These fairy godparents might be Timmy's only real source of comfort, filling in for the love and affection he never received from his parents. After a tragic car accident that took Wanda and Cosmo away, the young boy couldn't bear to face the brutal reality of his loss. So he retreated into a world of imagination where his beloved godparents still exist. The wishes he seems to make come true are nothing more than illusions from his troubled mind, offering only temporary relief without any lasting impact. The final theory proposes that Wanda always acts as the voice of reason, while Cosmo uses his wild behavior as a front to avoid responsibilities. According to this hypothesis, Cosmo wasn't always the goofball he appears to be. His silly and mischievous behavior may be a conscious strategy to dodge hard work, leaving Wanda to handle the consequences of his actions. Toy Story. One of the most intriguing and bittersweet fan theories about Toy Story revolves around the mysterious absence of Andy's father. Throughout the films, Andy's dad never appears, nor does his mom mention him, leading to much speculation about his whereabouts. The most popular theory suggests that Andy's father passed away, and as a result, the boy tries to fill that emotional void with his beloved toys, Woody and Buzz Lightyear. If you think about it, both characters embody fatherly qualities that Andy might be longing for, like kindness, leadership, and courage. On the other hand, fans have also developed a theory about the character Jessie, who in the second movie reveals she was abandoned by her previous owner, Emily. This theory suggests that Emily is actually Andy's mother, pointing out that Andy's red hat might have been a gift from his mom, who kept it from her own childhood when she used to play with Jessie. The saddest part of this theory is that as Emily grew up, she completely forgot about Jessie. Meanwhile, the doll, drowning in sorrow, is unable to recognize her owner now as an adult. Dexter's Laboratory. For kids who were passionate about science, Dexter was the perfect role model. At just 10 years old, this little genius had built a secret lab under his house, filled with advanced technology and tools to carry out any experiment his brilliant mind could dream up. Behind his scientist persona, some fans believe he may have Asperger's syndrome. This theory is based on his difficulty with socializing and his tendency to isolate himself, preferring the company of his lab equipment over interacting with others. To see it, just pay attention to how his sister, Dee Dee's constant presence in his workspace drives him crazy, reinforcing the idea that he might struggle to manage emotions and understand others' intentions, which is common in people with Asperger's. His inability to show empathy, even toward his family, is another sign that some fans interpret as part of his condition. The most shocking part of this theory is the final twist. According to fans, the Dexter we know in the animated series grows up to become Dexter Morgan, the forensic expert and serial killer from the series Dexter, where he puts his scientific talents to use in a dark and gruesome way. Ed, and Eddie. One of the most shocking theories about this Cartoon Network series claims that the main characters, along with the other kids in the neighborhood, are all dead. According to this theory, they all come from different time periods, spanning from the early 1900s to the early 2000s. The idea is that each child, at some point in history, lived in that neighborhood and died shortly after moving in. Now trapped in a sort of purgatory, Ed, Double D, and Eddie are doomed to spend eternity in the same place, unable to move on. Fans who support this theory offer several clues that reinforce their unsettling vision. For example, they mention that the characters have green or blue tongues, which could be a sign of death from a terrible illness. Additionally, the endless summer the kids live in is another hint, symbolizing time frozen in this strange purgatory. The most chilling detail is that the story never leaves the neighborhood, suggesting that the kids are stuck in a cycle, forever repeating the same antics without any way out. The Powerpuff Girls. Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup are beloved heroes who constantly save the city of Townsville from villains like Mojo Jojo and him. But behind their colorful costumes and heroic adventures lies a terrifying truth. The girls are merely fragments of the mind of a young girl named Brenda. Once a teenager who experienced unimaginable tragedy, Brenda developed dissociative identity disorder as a result of years of abuse and bullying from her older brother. He takes the form of the villain Mojo Jojo, the source of Brenda's fractured mind that split into three distinct parts, each represented by the three heroines. Blossom, with her brave and sensible nature and leadership skills, embodies the idealized self Brenda has always wished to be. Then there's Bubbles, who represents her sweet, vulnerable side, showcasing her innocence and tendency to be submissive, although this part of her personality also has moments of unpredictable aggression. Buttercup, on the other hand, is the personification of her anger and desire for revenge. This aggressive personality, fueled by an intense need to retaliate against her brother, shows a level of brutality that goes beyond the norm, especially when facing Mojo Jojo. Although each of Brenda's personalities is well-defined, they all display a shadow of violence, mirroring her internal conflict as she battles against the villain Mojo Jojo. In the end, what seemed like an exciting adventure series on screen actually paints a dark picture of a young girl's suffering and mental division. For Brenda, her only escape was to create these characters who resort to violence when they face her tormentor. The Flintstones and the Jetsons. In 1987, a special episode of The Flintstones revealed a surprising twist. The story begins with Elroy building a time machine to transport his family from the year 2062 to the 25th century. However, a malfunction causes the device to unexpectedly send them back thousands of years to bedrock. This mishap raises a provocative question. What if the time machine did indeed work, transporting them to the 25th century only to find themselves in a post-apocalyptic world? The theory suggests that the Jetsons traveled centuries into a future where nuclear war had left Earth devastated, causing advanced technology to vanish and civilization to crumble. As radiation levels slowly declined, the few survivors who had escaped to space returned to a desolate Earth to rebuild life, but with only rudimentary technology at their disposal. The animals that survived the nuclear fallout mutated into prehistoric forms, creating the dinosaurs we see in bedrock. The adaptation of advanced technology like cars and appliances within this primitive setting implies that humanity tried to recreate elements of the past with limited resources. Additionally, the celebration of Christmas, an event that historically postdates the Stone Age, provides another clue supporting the idea that society adapted and preserved cultural aspects across millennia. Adventure Time. The series that follows Finn and his magical dog, Jake, who can change shape and size, hides a disturbing and dark theory. Apparently, everything we see in Adventure Time is the product of the dreams of a boy named Finn, who, tired of constant bullying at school, made a terrible decision: to take revenge on his aggressors in a desperate and violent act. The story suggests that after starting a fire at his school to eliminate the bullies, Finn was caught in the flames and was left gravely injured. His burns put him into a deep coma, and while his body remained immobile, his mind was trapped in a heroic fantasy. In his imagination, Finn became the hero he always dreamed of being, fighting against dark forces with his loyal dog, Jake. During his coma, Finn's mumblings revealed the characters that populated his dreams: a sweet princess he was in love with, an ice king who resembled an evil version of Santa Claus, and a mysterious vampire named Marceline. Sadly, Finn passed away at 21, leaving his story incomplete. Shortly after, his older brother wrote down his dream and sold the story to a producer at Cartoon Network, who turned it into the animated series we now know as Adventure Time. Regular show. In J.G. Quintel's series, fans have developed a surprising theory. According to them, the coffee and soda we see consumed in countless episodes are not what they seem, but are symbolic representations of alcoholic drinks and other forbidden substances. This interpretation leads to an even darker theory, that Mordecai is a regular user of these substances, and the hallucinations he experiences are depicted as episodes of the show. In this interpretation, Rigby is merely a manifestation of Mordecai's troubled mind. According to the theory, Mordecai's raccoon friend died in an accident when he was just 15 years old. Unable to cope with the loss, Mordecai sank into substance abuse, leading to hallucinations in which Rigby is still alive. In Mordecai's mind, both of them are the same age and work together in a park. But if you stop to think about it, each episode begins with an ordinary situation that inevitably spirals into a bizarre adventure where anything can happen. In this way, every mundane event turns into a delirious trip triggered by Mordecai's mind. Meanwhile, his relationships with CJ and Margaret, his job at the park, and even Pops's epic sacrifice to save the universe at the end of the series are all constructs of a young man who has lost his grip on reality. The park, his co-workers, and all their adventures don't exist outside of his mind. Instead, they're part of a destructive cycle of illusions and escapism caused by his addiction. Doraemon, Fujiko Fujio, the pen name of the manga duo Hiroshi Fujimoto and Motu Abiko, are globally renowned for creating Doraemon, one of anime's most iconic characters, for over 50 years. This lovable robotic cat debuted as a manga in 1970 and was adapted for television in 1973. The story follows Nobita Nobi, a 10-year-old boy whose extreme laziness and lack of motivation doom his future family to poverty. To escape this grim fate, his grandson from the 22nd century sends Doraemon, a robotic cat whose magical pocket is filled with futuristic gadgets, allowing him to guide Nobita and help him solve his problems. Throughout the series, the two characters embark on adventures full of humor and life lessons, but the series never had an official ending due to Fujimoto's death in 1996. This left fans hanging, prompting them to create their own theories about how the anime might have concluded. The first theory is heartwarming. After years of adventures, Doraemon suffers a battery failure, forcing Nobita to make a heartbreaking decision. Replacing the battery would mean his robot friend would lose all memories. So Nobita decides to leave him as he is, and commits to studying hard until he becomes an expert in robotics. Years later, he manages to revive Doraemon with his memory intact, giving the series a touching, personal growth ending. The second theory is much darker and more unsettling. Nobita was in a coma the entire time, and the adventures with Doraemon were simply fantasies created in his mind. The cosmic cat never existed, and when Nobita finally wakes from his coma, he must face a reality without his faithful friend, leaving fans with a deep sense of emptiness and sadness. Phineas and Ferb. Once again, a grim theory suggests that everything we saw on screen is a product of a character's fractured mind. This time, the protagonist is Candace, the older sister of Phineas and stepsister of Ferb, whose life changed forever the day a bully hit her brother so hard that he died. Losing Phineas was too much for her, and her mind collapsed, unable to accept the tragedy. To cope with the pain, Candace began imagining an alternate world where Phineas was still alive, embarking on amazing adventures with their stepbrother Ferb every day. The theory goes further, suggesting that Ferb has a disability that prevents him from speaking, yet she imagines the two as carefree, adventurous kids. The detail that might lend credibility to this hypothesis is the bumbling villain doctor, Heinz Doofenshmirtz, who is actually Candace's psychiatrist, seeing her twice a week in a desperate attempt to help her overcome her trauma. But the story takes an even sadder turn. Candace's mother, overwhelmed by the high cost of therapy, decides to capitalize on her daughter's imaginary stories by turning them into a series she sells to Disney, giving birth to the hit show we know today as Phineas and Ferb. Winnie the Pooh. This astonishing theory about Disney characters offers a disturbing and revealing perspective on their personalities, suggesting that each of them is dealing with a mental health condition. The hypothesis, backed by an article from the Canadian Medical Association published in 2000, delves into the inner world of the beloved inhabitants of the 100-Acre Wood. First, we have Winnie the Pooh, the adorable teddy bear described as a character suffering from attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, and obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. His obsession with honey and his tendency to count repetitively reflect these disorders and showcase an unending fascination with what he desires most. Meanwhile, Rabbit is classified as narcissistic, focused on himself and his garden, while the melancholic donkey Eeyore suffers from dysthymia, characterized by persistent sadness. Owl, with his constant mistakes and confusions, shows signs of dyslexia, while Piglet faces generalized anxiety disorder, exhibiting excessive worries and everyday fears. Next is Kanga, whose social anxiety disorder explains her shyness and avoidance of social interactions. At the same time, her son Rue displays traits of autism, reflected in his unique and particular approach to the world around him. Finally, Tigger, with his boundless energy and difficulty focusing, also shares ADHD with Pooh. It is striking that Christopher Robin, the only character without a specific diagnosis, raises a troubling question. How is it possible for such a young child to spend so much time alone, communicating with animals, without any parental supervision? This enigma adds an air of mystery to a story that, under this interpretation, reveals deep psychological and emotional challenges that the seemingly lovable characters face in their daily lives. The Smurfs. On October 23, 1958, the world was introduced to these characters created by Belgian cartoonist Pierre Culliford. The little blue creatures quickly captured global attention through comics, animated series, and toys, conceived as symbols of cuteness and adventure for the younger audience. But beyond their apparent simplicity lies a theory that has left many fans speechless. The Smurfs might be a communist allegory. Those who support this hypothesis argue that the characters live in a society that operates without money, where self-sufficiency and collectivism are the norms. Each Smurf works for the common good, led by their leader, Papa Smurf, whose appearance and behavior have been compared to Karl Marx, especially given his red outfit and dominant role, which seem to directly reference communist ideals. Additionally, the notion of a cohesive community, where work and rewards are distributed equitably, and where everyone contributes to the collective well-being, embodies the principles of communism. On the other hand, the series' antagonist, Gargamel, represents the epitome of capitalism, as his obsession with capturing the Smurfs for his personal gain and his indifference to the general welfare reflect a scathing critique of the capitalist system. In conclusion, the theory suggests that the Smurfs' communist background may have been a strategy to influence children's mindsets during the Cold War by implanting ideas about collectivism and teamwork. While the comic's creator never confirmed this interpretation, speculation persists, leading to the question: could it be that beneath the surface of a children's cartoon, the Smurfs hide propaganda in favor of communism? What do you think? Don't forget to mention it in the comments. Now tell me, which of these theories do you think is true? Leave your opinion in the comments. Here are two options that you'll surely love.